Someone called you too sensitive, too emotional. You wear your heart on your sleeve, you cry at commercials, at songs, at moments other people walk right past without noticing. And for a long time, you believed them. You believed something about how you were made was a flaw that needed fixing. I want to tell you something before we go any further. Psychology has been studying people like you for decades, and what it has found is not what you were told. The people who feel most deeply, who cry most easily, are not the weakest people in the room. They are often the most aware, the most present, the most genuinely connected to what is actually happening around them. And today, we need to talk about what is really going on inside you, because you have been misread. For most of your life, psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron coined the term highly sensitive person to describe something measurable and specific, a nervous system that processes sensory and emotional information more deeply than average. Research estimates this applies to roughly 15 to 20% of the population. These are not people who chose to be dramatic. They are not people who failed to toughen up. They are people whose brains are genuinely wired to process the world at higher resolution, more input, more depth, more response. Neuroimaging research has shown that highly sensitive individuals demonstrate stronger activation in brain regions linked to awareness, empathy, and emotional processing, particularly the insula and the mirror neuron system. For the average person, watching a touching moment or hearing a sad song registers, gets processed, and fades. For the highly sensitive person, that same signal hits differently, harder, longer, more completely. And the tears that come are not performance. They are not manipulation. They are the nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do, responding to something real. But here is what that viral video didn't tell you. For many people, this heightened sensitivity is not just neurological, it is formational. It was shaped by what happened to them. Children who grow up in emotionally unpredictable environments, where a parent's mood set the temperature of the entire household, where love felt inconsistent, where the child had to stay on high alert to navigate what was coming next, often develop what researchers call heightened emotional attunement. They learn to feel the room with extraordinary precision because their safety depended on it. The sensitivity that looks like weakness to the outside world was originally a survival skill. It kept them alive emotionally, and it never fully turned off. This is the piece that changes everything. You may have spent years wondering why you feel things so much more intensely than other people, why a word spoken carelessly can land in you like a stone in still water, sending ripples long after the person who said it has moved on. Why endings hit you harder, why beauty stops you cold, why someone else's pain registers in your own chest before you've had time to think about it. You were not born broken. You were shaped by an environment that required more of you than it should have, and the very sensitivity that was your survival mechanism is now the most remarkable thing about you. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 12:15, "Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn." This is not a command to perform emotion on cue. It is a description of a person who is genuinely present to the emotional reality of the people around them, who can feel what others feel, not as an exercise in spiritual discipline, but because their nervous system is wired for it. The highly sensitive person does not have to practice empathy. They live it, automatically, constantly, at their own cost. And the cost is real. Because you are not just managing your own emotional life, you are absorbing pieces of everyone else's. Every conversation carries emotional freight you are still unpacking long after the other person has moved on. Every space you walk into brings information. the slight tension in someone's voice, the forced smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the moment the energy in a room shifts before anyone else has registered it. You read emotional subtext the way others read words on a page, automatically, involuntarily, and exhaustingly. So why the tears? Why does the emotional experience, for people wired this way, so often find its exit through crying? The answer is more biological than most people realize. Emotional tears are chemically different from the tears your eyes produce for lubrication. They carry elevated levels of stress hormones, including cortisol, which means that crying may be one of the ways the body physically expels the biochemical residue of emotional experience. After a genuine cry, many people report a distinct shift, a sense of release, of pressure lifted, of something settling that had been wound tight. That is not coincidence. That may be the nervous system completing a cycle it needed to finish. And for the highly sensitive person, whose emotional load accumulates faster, whose system processes more deeply, that release valve gets triggered more often. Not as a sign of instability, as a form of maintenance. And yet, this is precisely the experience that the church has so often gotten wrong. The person who cries easily, who feels everything, who is moved by beauty and broken by cruelty and stopped cold by moments that everyone else walks past, is frequently told, in subtle and not so subtle ways, that this is too much. Be more composed, have more faith. Don't let your emotions lead you. And the message lands exactly the way it always has, as confirmation that something is fundamentally wrong with how they were made. But look at the people in Scripture who felt deeply. David, who wrote his grief into songs that are still being sung 3,000 years later. Jeremiah, called the weeping prophet, who mourned for a people who didn't want to be mourned for. Paul, who wrote to the Philippians with tears, who described himself as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing, holding both at once. And Jesus himself, who wept at the tomb of Lazarus, not because he lacked faith, not because he had forgotten that resurrection was coming, but because he was present, because grief was real and he refused to bypass it. The shortest verse in Scripture, John 11:35, is not an embarrassment to explain away. It is a revelation. The God of the universe allowed himself to be moved. Psalm 56:8 says something almost unbearably tender. You have kept count of my tossings. Put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? In a culture that tells sensitive people to stop crying, stop feeling so much, stop being so dramatic, God is described as someone who collects every tear, who keeps count, who does not lose track of a single one. Your tears are not evidence that you have failed to trust him. They are evidence that you are human in the exact way he made you. So what does healing look like for someone who has spent years believing their sensitivity is a flaw? It does not look like becoming less sensitive. It looks like learning to steward what you have been given. Learning to distinguish between the emotional load that is yours to carry and the load that belongs to someone else. Learning to recognize when you have absorbed so much from the people around you that you need time alone, not as avoidance but as recovery. Learning to receive comfort as readily as you give it, because the person who feels everyone else's pain so deeply often has the most difficulty letting anyone into their own. And it looks like this: believing, really believing, that the thing that has cost you the most is also the thing that makes you most like the God who wept, who felt, who refused to be unmoved by human suffering. You were not made wrong. You were made deeply, and that depth, when it is finally understood and not apologized for, is one of the rarest things in the world. If what we've talked about today is something you want to go deeper with, I created a structured 7-day journey to help you calm your mind and begin working through the patterns your nervous system has been carrying. It's called the 7-Day Guided Journey to Calm Your Mind. The link is in the description below. It's practical, gentle, and built for exactly this kind of inner work. Take the next step at your own pace. Subscribe to this channel. Every week I create content at the intersection of psychology and Christian faith because your inner life matters, and you deserve the language to understand it. You are not alone in this.